of On Point. Today with me are some great minds. In Liberia, we will be discussing current events. And as you see me, I'm in my green. Today is St. Patrick's Day. To all my Irish brothers and sisters out there, we are here. So for you guys in Boston, in the Northeast, I am going to go back to playing our song that we will say to you guys. Today is Sunday, St. Patrick's Day. Okay? So let me play our theme song one more time. One more time for my brothers and sisters in the Northeast. Everywhere from Ireland. If you got your Guinness stout, but you have to have something green. Let's go to this.
My name is Abena Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, hey, in diaspora, current affairs, hey, reliable information, history, talking about culture, yeah, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our St. Patrick's Day special edition of On Point. You can see me. I grew up in New Jersey. I'm a New Jersey Jet fan originally. And all of my brothers and sisters out there from a different father or different mother, they're Irish and always wear green. Whenever they send me these things, I wear them and I go to the pubs. I won't tell you what we do when we go to the pubs out there in the Northeast. I won't tell you that we got wasted, but we did something great out there. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a great show for you today. We got great minds. We got Mr. Tower, we got Mr. Morris, we got Mr. Gay here. We're going to be discussing the issues, but there are great things happening. Let's talk about the different holidays that are going on now. For our brothers who are Muslim, they are doing their Ramadan, their fasting month. And for my Jewish cousins and brothers out there, this is Yom Kippur. So they're doing their Jewish thing. And then for those of you who are out there who are the Miami Heat fan, we're doing our thing. We're playing Detroit Pistons today. Ladies and gentlemen, my Chelsea is not doing too well, but we're okay. We'll bounce back. Chelsea, the number one, the best love teams in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, I have with me some of the best minds. We're going to be discussing the 100-day deliverables. We today saw Mr. Marva Mullen launch a new group. What is this all about? Is he about to run for office? Is he about to take the bull by the horn? We're going to have Mr. Anthony Gay delve into that. Mr. Tower, we have 100-day delivery. We have Mr. Weir. And then somewhere we heard that President Weir had called for 25 EPS protection. Whether that is true or it is innuendo, we're going to deal with that. We have Mr. Elvin Morris here, who is, I will call it the Notre Dame of On Point. He told me, he said, Mr. Gayman, I know that you are a stern seditious as I am, but brace yourself for the eventuality of Joseph Boakai becoming president, and I told he was out of his mind. So I have to take off my hat to you, young man. You were right. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go for me, Mr. Tower. How you doing, there, sir? Where are you calling in from, or where you hosting from, or where you coming in from?
I'm in Houston, the Rocket City.
Okay, Houston, Texas, home of the Rockets. Mr. Gay, where are you calling in from? Where are you zooming in from?
Hey man, from the northeast, the president hometown, the president of the United States hometown.
Oh, okay. Thank you for making that correction. I thought Joseph Boakai, you say he was, some people say he was born in 709. You say he was born in Pennsylvania. So are you in Scranton, or are you in Philadelphia?
Wilmington.
Wilmington, Philadelphia. Thank you.
Delaware.
Delaware, in the same area. Mr. Elvis Morris, where are you calling in from? Where are you zooming in from?
Yeah, I'm calling you from Plymouth, Minnesota.
Plymouth, Minnesota. When you say Plymouth, the first thing that comes to mind is
Plymouth Rock?
the Northeast, but it's all right. Like Malcolm X used to say, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us and made us struggling as we are today. Ladies and gentlemen, we got great topics here. We're limited down to 3. And anything else that you want to discuss, we can discuss, because this is about current events. So what we usually do is we select a couple of topics that we can discuss. But if there are pressing issues that we have missed and you want to discuss them, we are open to discuss them. You will be allowed to call in and you can participate. We'll respond to your comments. We'll respond to your call. We'll have the numbers on there. You can call and comment. Mr. Elvis Morris, tell me what is in Liberia current event that you will be, or you really hard pressed to discuss beside our topics?
I think this one is a little far fetched, but it's not being discussed currently a lot. But who's going to replace Justice Namwe on the Supreme Court? That's the thing that I'm thinking about, because I think there will be a lot of cases going to the Supreme Court. Right now, most people have pointed out they have an even number on the bench. In there, like 4 justices. So if there's a tie, who breaks the tie? You know, we have a lot of important cases, especially the case with tenure and possibly maybe corruption cases that go to the Supreme Court. People being charged with embezzlement or whatever from the previous government. So I think the Supreme Court will be very important, and that would really decide the stability of the country, because if partisans from the former ruling party feels like they're being targeted or witch hunted, and the Supreme Court reaffirms or affirms, the lower court's decision to hold these guys accountable, there may be some unrest in the country. So we have to have a stable and a balanced Supreme Court that's going to render justice free and fair. So I think that's an issue that we have to look at closely, because it can destabilize the country if the Supreme Court is seen to be, unbalanced or unfair.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please do us a favor and share the show in your network. For some reason, even I am not getting my own link. I can't even share the show anymore. I have to go and get it from somebody else and share it. So please do us a favor and share this show with your friends in your network. Call in as much as you can. Mr. Tao, you just heard what Mr. Morris said. Besides the topic that we need to discuss, he wants us to put on the front burner Joseph Boakai's first pick. Obviously, John Namwe had just passed, so he will have the opportunity to do his first Supreme Court pick. And he is, we shouldn't say lucky or fortunate because somebody lost his life, but in the first 3 months of his presidency, he's having a chance to pick a Supreme Court justice. Mr. Tao, what is it that you want us to put on the front burner?
Yeah, I think we discussed a lot of these things already, but the problem that we are having in Liberia, like from back in 2005 or in 2006, some of the pressing issues, when I started to look at how the Sali government was operating, and a lot of people miss a lot of things. As far back as 2007, 2008, I was discussing with a lot of people. My uncle was one of them, because he was a staunch supporter of Ellen because of the Harvard connection. because he's somebody who believes in both people. And I told him that the lady was tying that country up, that the things that she was putting in place in that country were really bad. One of them is this tenure stuff. This tenure thing, there is really no need for it. It's security, it's job security. They're trying to tie down areas. And if you look at the tenure position, those are very, very lucrative positions in terms of salaries and benefits. So, but in the first place, I've looked at the Constitution and I've talked to other people that are like constitutional scholars. The tenure thing that they introduced is actually unconstitutional. That should not have been allowed. But what is the issue here? The house, both houses, corruption, incompetence. That's what made them to pass those bills. Because remember, I think as we all know, it was during the early time that the brown envelope came about, right? I know it probably was there, but she popularized it and she pretty much almost like legalized it. So anything that she wanted done, she just handed out brown envelopes. And those guys pocketed money and they passed it. But that is one of the things the Supreme Court will have to look at. And when they look at it thoroughly, and if it is challenged, you will find out that that law is unconstitutional. It should never have been done. Why do you need tenure position for somebody in fishery? Why are you tying up all these positions? There are areas, yes, that are actually specified by the Constitution. Outside of that, let everywhere be open. But trying to tie it down, you tie the next government, you place people in positions and you want to keep them there for 5 years, 6 years, 8 years. That it just don't make any sense.
Great. Mr. Anthony Gay, we have Mr. Morris talk about the issue of the Supreme Court, as critical as it is to the stability of a country. He wants to put it up front. Mr. Tower is talking about the unconstitutionality of tenure position. And he gave a little brief history of that tenure position. And then we talk about the Supreme Court. Besides what we have talked about, what are some of the burning issues that you think will make headlines few days, few weeks, few months from now that you think we should be discussing in addition to what we have on our docket?
There are so many, but I think Mr. Tower and I were taking in the same direction, but just that I disagree with his position as to, the tenure position being, bad for the country or whatnot. I don't know about the constitutionality about the tenure position, whether or not is unconstitutional, but I think the intent, and I clearly, emphasizing on the word intent. The intent of having a tenure position is to balance out governmental, positions, wherein if one government leaves office and another government comes into play, they change everybody, right? If you realize in developed country, even here in the United States, that career diplomats, that career service members, right? They don't just change everyone. So tenure in its intent and originality is for unbiased or unpolitical position, a position that's supposed to be anonymous of politics, a position that's supposed to be independent. For instance, the governor of central bank, right? This is not a partisan position. This is supposed to be a position where a person serves the nation for a partisanship, for a politics, right? An independent mind. So a tenure position will permit this person to operate void of any changes in government or not, right? It keep the government afloat and it keep the government operational until the next government find its footing, so to speak, for lack of a better term. But unfortunately, our tenure position have turned the other way. And I think that there where I see Mr. Taiwo frustration, right? But I don't think the tenure position is a bad thing for our nation. I think it's a good thing. I just think that the executional part of it right now is bad. That we see people who are in tenure position operating as though they are partisan of a party. And that's what we have seen from all the different tenure positions. I think tenure is good for Liberia. If they remain anonymous, if they remain independent of their position and do the job as required. I'm for tenure position. I just think the execution right now is very poor. I don't think people should be losing tenure position. I think There is the sadness of Liberia. We have good laws on the book, things like the code of conduct and all the different things. But just the execution of these good laws are just done poorly. But I think tenure position, in my opinion, is very good for Liberia.
Great. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mr. Sam Wallow. Thank you very much. Very, 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 very loyal, always commenting. We want to say hello to Mr. Emmanuel Jackson. He's tuning in from Boston. Rose Russell, thank you for watching. Victor Nambe and the rest of the crew, thank you. We'll be sending you shout out throughout the day as we go. Please share this show. Mr. Tower, so we agree now that we are going to add two other topics. We're going to add the tenure position thing. We're going to talk about it because Kwame Clement wrote something very lengthy from a legal standpoint, and I'm going to make reference to that, and we're going to discuss that. And then we're going to add the importance of appointing a Supreme Court justice, not only appointing a Supreme Court justice, but the time in which, I mean, can you imagine a president? Most presidents have the opportunity to appoint maybe one, or sometimes none. And sometimes happen in their third or fourth year when they are going out. But if you had the opportunity to appoint a Supreme Court justice in the third month of your tenure, I mean, that has to be great. I mean, it gives you enough time to vet. I would say we are talking about people who should interpret the Constitution for what it is, not in a partisan sense. But the reason that they give them a lifetime tenure is that they shouldn't be looking over their shoulders about whether they can be fired or recalled. So it is great.
Point of correction, Mr. Gayman. The Supreme Court justices do not have a lifetime term. I think they have to retire at 70.
Yeah, well, but that's what we are saying. If you were appointed at 50, you got 20 years. So your whole life, your whole working lifetime, okay? Because I think I heard the retirement age in Liberia is 60, but if you are on the Supreme Court, it's up to 70. That's the retirement age. So your whole working life is on that court. And obviously, we understand too that it's not guaranteed because you can be impeached and removed from the Supreme Court for a crime, against the state and all of that. But on the surface, it's a lifetime position. So we're going to add the tenure position. We're going to add the justices, and then we're going to add about what's happening in Liberia about the 100 days where we are. The rainy season is about to start. I was just in Grand Bassa County. I went to Nimba. I went to the border of Nimba and Bong, and the roads are terrible. They are deplorable. I didn't go down to the southeast because that's the photo that everybody shows during election and campaign time. The road between Grand Jire and I think it's Sino and that area where all the presidential candidates, Joseph Boakai, maybe not him, but his vice president, Mr. Cummings, Mr. Weir, everybody goes there and show how deplorable the roads are, and that when they become president, the roads will be fixed. In fact, Joseph Boakai took it to another level. Within 90 days, he didn't even say 100, within 90 days of his ascendancy, no roads, no car will be stuck on any major road going to the southeast or going to central Liberia. So we're going to discuss that. And then we're going to talk about President Weir and the 25 EPS. The gentleman who wanted us to discuss that is Mr. Fidel, and I'm glad he had information, and we are waiting. Hopefully he will show up. But let's start with the tenure position, Mr. Towell. The reason for tenure, it looks like it has been politicized in Liberia. So here we are. Everybody likes tenure. I like it. The Joseph Boakai people like it. The CDC people like it. But he reminded me of when I spoke to Charles Bromsky. He asked me for his support. And I said, I will support you on one condition. He said, what? I said, if you could help to demolish the unitary system in Liberia so we can have some kind of quasi-federal system. He says the unitary system in Liberia have been badly used, but when I become president, you will see the effectiveness of the unitary system. Everybody hates it, but when it comes to them, they think they are the one to execute it. Mr. Tower here, Nobody, if you're in opposition, you don't like tenure. But when you are in position, you love tenure. We just saw it. The people who are saying they don't like tenure, a whole slew of them went to NASCAR. We talk about senators. We talk about administrators went there and say, you should leave and let us now take over. They didn't say let abolish it and say your time to leave so we can take over. Mr. Otawa addressed that for me.
Yeah. You see, Mr. Gay said that the problem with tenure is that, I mean, like the intent, right? He said the intent. You know, there is one thing that we have to admit to. I watch several of the Focus on Africa program throughout the week. And what I see happening here is that we want to assume, we want to try to speculate about the intention of these leaders that are in Liberia. And we say, oh no, you know, they just made a mistake here. They were supposed to submit this one, but they just had a slip. And you know, we'll come up with these things. These people are not making mistakes. These people actually intend, their real intent is to commit corruption, crime against the state. We have to, and some people say, oh, it's too harsh. We have to hold these people responsible. It doesn't matter what. Okay, so the tenure position, what was the intent here? The manner in which it was set up. There is no way it can be a political, it's going to be political because it's an appointment. It's a political appointment. And these people are appointed from within parties. They're loyalists. That is how they're appointed. These are not like somebody that just from outside, that because they say, oh, look, this person right here, they're an expert, they've done this, they have the record. No. They're placing people for job. So if we still have that kind of system that way, then we don't need to have tenure. Now, if Liberia have moved and progressed to a level to where we are dealing with people and we're putting people in place because of their ability and what they can bring, then maybe we can bring tenure. But it's never going to work. Right now, when we are coming, what was he trying to do? Remove people so he can put people in it from within his party. Once it's appointment, if we want to say we don't want to be political, then maybe let them be elected. Then maybe it creates some kind of independence. But as long as they're appointed. So this is where the problem is. So right. the way the whole structure is put together and the way it's going, it's just not going to work. And there is one thing that is just connected to these positions too that I want to make reference to. Real quick. I listen to all of us here in the US on all the different platforms, whether it's here on FOL, whether it's on Spoon, whether it's on any other platform or wherever. And we try to project ourselves as the clean hand, as some kind of expert, the people that can go to Liberia and make it work. And there was somebody that was on one of the programs. They just hired them. Like they have never talked to me. They have not looked at the diaspora. But for 18 years, it's the diaspora that have been running Liberia. That's the most corrupt group. They're the one that responds for all they have salaries. I have my mortgage to pay in America. I have my kids to send to private school. We have to be able to admit to this. They're the one, it is that group upon which the whole house salary, everything, and all the bonuses were predicated on, for which the whole budget of the country is all on salaries and benefits.
Thank you.
There should be something that we should discuss here and we should hold ourselves responsible in the diaspora here.
Great. Mr. Morris, I think during the week, Mr. Kwame Clement wrote a piece supporting the tenureship and why the Unity Party is going or swimming against the tide, and it's a battle that they can't win. He says the tenure positions, actually the idea was it emanated from Joseph Boakai and Ellen Johnson, and they fought for it when he was president of the Senate, and they passed that into law. And now here he is. Not only is he trying to circumvent the system, but he's reading the Constitution, he's cherry picking. And his contention is the framework of the Constitution did not intend for the Constitution to be interpreted by cherry picking. It has to be interpreted wholesomely. Your take.
Look, Mr. Gayman, thank you. And before I even continue, I should have picked this topic instead of my other topic because I think it's more pressing. The issue in Ghana with the refugees in Bujumbura,
Yep, yep, yep.
you know, I think that issue is an embarrassment to our nationhood. I think those people who are on those camps, some of them are very traumatized. Some of them may have even committed some crimes that they're afraid to return to Liberia. Some of them, you know, they feel like what happened to their family members, it would just be too traumatizing to go back home. So the reason, you know, for them staying in Ghana for so long is perplexing to me because we know you can't be a perpetual refugee in another person's country. So the fact that they refuse to go back home, I think says a lot about us as a nation and says a lot about the trauma that the war caused on these people. I think this government, as we know, to repatriate these people back home, it could cost money. You can just come and put them back, you know, after they leave up, you know, international airport on their own. No, you have to have some plan to assimilate them, you know, and kind of cushion their, you know, their coming into the country. So I think it's a whole thing that this government needs to look at. Former President George Weah was looking into it, but again, we already have a tight knit budget to find an extra 5 or 10 million to repatriate these people is going to be almost impossible. So I want to mention, I think it's a pressing issue that as a nation is it has to do with our pride and taking care of our citizens. And I think we have done a very poor job from President Weah and up to now to President Boycott. But on the issue of tenure, like in this country, right, there's not really a lot of tenure positions in terms of the federal government. That is because a lot of people who are technocrats, when a new administration come in, they're not looking to change the entire government. They keep, you know, secretary position, you know, positions that they're looking to change to, you know, to affect their policies. But in the United States, people respect experience. So if somebody has been in that position for 10, 15, 20 years and they have performed to a high level, if Joe Biden comes in there, he's not going to remove that person, you know, as long as they have been doing the job to a, you know, a respectable level. But in Liberia, like you said, everything has been politicized. So I think the intent, this goes into the, you know, the minds of the framer of this statute. The intent was that we need more technocrats who will be in their position for long to affect the change that we want to see in the country. Because if we have such a high turnover in every, you know, successive government, that's going to mean people are starting over from scratch every time, you know, every 6 years. So we can have people in these tenure positions who have a mission, who is carrying on a project that will not be interrupted by the changeover of government. That's a good thing for the country. We have to have some level of continuity in different successive government. So the idea, I think, was probably along those lines, where these people can be in these positions and affect the change because they have the technical, you know, skills, you know, skill sets to affect the change that we need to see in Liberia in some of our industries or in, you know, some of these agencies. But like Mr. Taiwo said, people will interpret it differently because it's political. They'll say, "Oh, these people just want to put people there to you know, to give them job for a certain length of time, so on and so forth." But another thing we can't forget is that these people who have these tenure positions are almost like quasi governmental employees because they have a contract. Most civil servants don't have a quote unquote contract with the government. These people have a legally binding contract that the government must adhere to, which is what the ruling in the case of Martin Colley was, that they had to fulfill that contract because they had a term. And that term was, I think, for 4 years or so. And he had not completed his term. And thereby it was a breach of contract for the government to fire him before his term without cause. So it's a little different because it's a contractual issue that the government has to first deal with. And the last thing before I turn it over to you, Mr. Gamey, I think the optics of it politically is bad for you know, our president because the reality is you want to be seen as a rule of law person. I was on another platform. The person argued that it was in his right to fire or to try to remove these people without due process. pretty much saying, well, the president took action. The onus is on you to go to court to prove why the president made, the wrong decision by firing you. You first go to court. I liken it to civil court, civil law, because this is a civil case. It's not a criminal matter. If your neighbor came and encroached upon your property line, put a fence up, something like that, you can't take the law into your own hands, go get a bulldozer and break that person's fence down. Because not one, you're destroying their property, and then two, you're circumventing the peace officer, duties to come and mitigate the situation between you two. So you first have to seek redress from the state. And the whole president of our country, they didn't do that. He just arbitrarily fired these people and effectively said, go to court, take me to court. And that's not how you do things if you want to be seen as a president who respects grew up here. I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Mr. Gay, tenure is something that we all have interest in. It's like when they were crafting the 1986 Constitution, most of us were young, but we balked against when Amos Sawyer and the people called the thinkers were giving themselves all these lengthy times, 6 years and 9 years, and other people said 9 years in the Senate, it's a decade. If you love the United States, mimic the United States. Let it be 6 and 4 or 4 and 2 years, so we can have a conversation. But because they thought this was going to be in their favor for a lifetime, they care less. Now that the table have turned, they are now saying, listen, tenure position was never meant for you, or basically was meant for us. So you move and let us come in. The law said there is a policy and procedure how you remove a tenure officer, either by buying them out or for cause, for incompetence. But you can't fire somebody else just say you are incompetent. You have to prove that the person did not do their job. Mr. Gay.
Yeah, to Everett's point that it is contractual, people sign contract for a term period, right? So if it's, for instance, if you hire a basketball coach and the term was 3 years, and within 1.5 years that coach, does not, meet the requirement of the team, or reason, you want to let him go, you pay him off. Same thing with the tenure position, right? They sign contract. It's a term position, and if you deem it, to let them go, you have to pay them off. You can't just leave them up the hook and say go to court, right? Look, these tenure positions, and I want to commend Elvis for venturing that they're supposed to be a technocrat. For instance, I want to pick for the sake of this discussion, I want to pick the Central Bank of Liberia. If the Central Bank of Liberia should introduce a monetary policy and the government of Liberia introduce a fiscal policy, the policy will not take full effect within 6 months or a year. It will take at least something around 2 to 3, 4 years for it to properly, yield its fruits, right? So if you have someone in that position that laying out, like Liberia current economy is a cash-based economy. If they want to transition that to a agriculture-based or value-added based economy, it's not going to be overnight. These are processes that have to be put in place. So you need individual with the skill set, with the expertise to carry on this position. The only person that remove career diplomats and experts in the United States that caused the country some problem, that was Donald Trump. He removed people from the homeland security, remove people from the State Department, all of the different things, and it hurt America for a long time, right? Even up to now, immigration process is very slow in this country because a lot of people were let go. Experienced career people were let go, right? So that's the reason why tenure positions are very, very important, right? Even though in the United States, like Eric said, that's true, we don't have too many tenure positions, but we have these career diplomats. So that foreign service is solid. This is the reason why the situation in Ghana right now is giving the Liberian government a serious problem, because our diplomatic service is very poor, very, very poor, because they don't have structure in place for emergency, circumstances like the situation in Burundian. Many people have lived their life over 20 years outside of Liberia, where they are accustomed to a lifestyle that they cannot find themselves getting accustomed to that same lifestyle right now if they shall be left, to go by Liberia, right? So that is the circumstance that people face. So tenure position should be a position that people will hold on. I agree with Mr. Tower when you say the process in which the tenure leaders are picked, it is political. That is true. It is political because when you are appointed by a president, that is a clearly political position. However, because we don't follow through with the TOR of positions and the act that create that position, that's the reason why they operate in the political form. Currently, Liberia is a unitarian state. 98% of government employee has to be appointed by our president. That is a sad thing when you have a power given to one human being. 98% of the people that work in government in Liberia are appointed from the town chief.
That's not true.
Okay, let me use the first. They say for almost 98%.
What do you mean? Civil servants are not appointed by the president.
But seven make how many percentage of the government?
The vast majority of it.
Okay, gentlemen, that is not.
So, but here's the thing: if the president can appoint a mayor, appoint superintendent, appoint a parliamentary or a client chief, local government president have power over these people. All government agencies and government ministry, president appoints people there. So I mean, look at the power this one person has in the country.
500 persons is appointed by the president into government.
And
the government have over 70,000 people working for it.
Also have staffers that they appoint, within that surroundings. So I mean, they have power. That's the danger of having a country that does not have a structure wherein local government are elected by its people and selected by its people. Superintendent, mayor are supposed to be elected, right? But our constitution is very vague. It does not give the absolute power that it has to be. It gives the discretion to the sitting president. So Elaine look at it and say, you know what? We don't have the resources to elect a mayor, so I will appoint the mayor. We don't have the resources to elect a superintendent, so I will appoint a superintendent. In the past, Dr. Sawyer ran for the city mayor position of Monrovia. Even though he didn't win that time, but he did run for it, right? So, but the way the constitution is structured currently, it left the discretion with the current president to appoint or make it an elected position. So this is an ongoing subject that we can discuss another time. But I just want to say, tenure position is good for Liberia, and if we should do the right thing.
Let me bring in. First of all, let me thank Mr. Elvis Murray. I see you're green there in solidarity with our brothers.
You forced me to wear the green. Just tell it. You forced me to wear
green. My colleague here and my brother, Mr. Nambe, is wearing his green. I see Mr. Fidel from Great Britain. He better wear the green when he's in London or in the Great British area there. Today is St. Patrick's Day, so we are in solidarity with our brothers and sisters from the island. I am going to the pub. I've been having a great time. I have not been wasted yet. I'm almost there from here. I'm going back to finish the job. Mr. Victor Nambe, welcome to the show. I want to welcome Mr. Fidel here. We are now discussing tenure. During the week, the legal luminaries, the charm, including Mr. Kwame Clement, who says tenure is a constitutional issue that have been settled. And anybody who wants to read the Constitution in isolation, you want to pick Article 56 without making reference to Article 87. So the framers of the Constitution have never meant that the Constitution should be cherry-picked. If you don't like Victor Nambe, you go through the entire Constitution, you find one phrase that says this guy from the Southeast, and you say everybody from the Southeast should not be in government. Mr. Nambe, your case, your understanding, and your stance on tenureship in Liberia.
Well, thank you very much, Jerome, and good afternoon to you all. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon here on the East Coast. Weather is very nice outside. It is great to be here. Look, I think the primary issue that the tenure problem is buttoned against is the whole question of upholding the rule of law. I think this is what is at issue here. The president of the Republic of Liberia, when he takes office, he takes an oath to uphold, protect, and defend the Constitution. Right? We agree there are lots of tenured positions. For instance, why do you want to give tenure to the chairperson of the Liberia Telecommunications Authority? But during his time with President Shirley, they created most of these positions. He's fully aware of them. The way to deal with that is to go back to the legislature and remove some of these tenures, right? And reduce the number of tenure positions. But those people are in place. The law says in order to remove those people, you must have cause to remove them. The president has not done that. He has not given these people due process. And that is the fundamental question here. Is this president going to be the president who's just going to abrogate the rule of law and just walk around and walk all over everybody? I think this is what is concerning to everyone. He reserved the right to appoint people, but if those people are protected by the law, you can't just remove them nilly-willy. You have to go back to the law and use the law to remove them. This is what concerns us here. He should go to court if he has to, or go back to the legislature if he has to. But he's not doing it right. He's not doing it the right way. This is what concerns us. If the president of the Republic of Liberia begins to violate the Constitution, then there is going to be a breakdown of law and order. The rule of law is going to crumble. And this is the issue. I think this is the fundamental issue. This has nothing to do with, whether this president has 10 years on the job, 5 years on the job, whatever the law provides for that person, that is the protection that they enjoy. If you must remove them, then you should do it through the law. But the president is not doing that. He's violating the law. If you read the article that you're citing, Brother Gayman, from Professor Kwame Clement, that is the issue he's making. It's a settled law. Even here in the U.S., he cited a case of Humphrey versus, I believe, Roosevelt, the SEC commission. And so the law was side with the appointee because the president in the law that protect these people. So what he's arguing is, just like Mr. Morris indicated, yes, you can call these people in and also negotiate with them and pay them off. But that is gonna be at a tremendous cost to the economy. We're already bleeding. So that may not be the right route to go. He has to either wait for these people tenure to expire or dismiss them for cause or go back to the legislature and remove those laws that give these people the protection. He's not doing any of those. He's just appointing these people, and that is concerning.
Great. Fidel, here our well-learned brother, political tactician, is talking about the process of the rule of law. Even in the private sector, if you are going to fire somebody, you got to have a reason. You say, listen, you tarded a lot. You have violated our rules. According to our handbook, you have violated Rule 1.5. And the consequences is that we gave you a first warning, and we did training, we did all of these things, and it has not helped you. We can only draw one conclusion, that this job is not right for you. You can't do the job. But we have to document, we got steps. Now here we are having conflicts here. Some people are saying the president is not even aware of some of these things that are happening. Like, group of folks got up, the party chairperson, senators, even the commerce minister joined the bandwagon, and they went, took a flimsy piece of paper and said, the president gave us the, when the people pushed back, they said, no, don't worry, we are going to now do it the right way.
There were all eminent people that came that day.
Yes, Mr. Fidel. So this has nothing to do with tenureship, but this is all about filling or giving job to partisans.
Well, thank you, and let me apologize first for being late. It happened to me on Wednesday as well on the Justice Forum, because I Your change your time before we do. Ours don't change until the end of the month. So I'm
We
sitting
will
thinking
we will
I was running
remove
my
your
work somebody
we'll
with
remove
somebody.
your tenure. Now we have cause to remove your tenure on the show.
That's right.
You see,
That's
exactly.
cost.
You know? No, but yes, in this case, definitely there is cost because I wasn't tidy and I came late. But I think, look, I read the article in the Front Page Africa about what happened at NASCO, right? And prior to that, I had actually written an opinion piece that I was going to publish on this whole tenure issue, and then Councillor Clement came out with his, and I said, "Thank God, I am put my own there." Fizzy let me, I didn't my own in the bin because the way that he laid it out was so well written and well argued that it's difficult for the Supreme Court of Liberia to take any other decision on the issue of tenure. And for anyone who doesn't understand legal issues, it's difficult for you not to understand. All right. So Article 89 of the Constitution is clear that it is the legislature that can determine what agencies we need, right, for the running of the government. The legislature decided under Her Excellency President Sirleaf and Vice President Boyka at the time that look, LTA, fisheries, and other agencies, we need to make them autonomous agencies or authorities so that they have the ability to be what Councillor Clement referred to as quasi-legislative bodies, right? So these bodies can make rules to govern these sectors, and then they can have quasi judiciary powers to prosecute people when they so because of those two reasons, they're not necessarily falling under the executive as in Article 56. But to answer your question, look, I think so far, and I'm going to pick on something my esteemed brother Mr. Morris said on my first on point appearance. He said, look, it's difficult for him to say that in Boaka's first few days in office, he's becoming more lawless than George Weah was, right? And I think that's what we're seeing. And unfortunately, I don't believe the president himself is aware of what is going on. And that speaks to two things. One, the selfishness of the individual to think that he has the stamina to handle these young guys and girls around him, that he thought, oh yes, I can be president, I can keep them in check, and he doesn't have the stamina, and that was selfish of him because he should have known his capacity. And secondly, it also speaks to the fact that he doesn't have the and I refer to it as spine, and I think Mr. Patmo said that was a very strong word. He doesn't have the spine to do what needs to be done as president, because these kind of things should not be happening. The president should be the one in charge of our country. He should be the one taking the decisions, and he should be the one answering for those decisions. Right now, the way things are going, it looks like people are making decisions for him, putting names on lists, taking names off lists. And by the time we go to question him, he will come up with the excuse, oh no, that I mean put it there, or that somebody else put it there.
Mr. Tao, there was great, this particular topic. I think we're going to return to it, but let's go to our second topic here of interest. We are talking about, not even in the United States, not too many presidents get the opportunity to appoint a Supreme Court justice, much less in your first 3 months, your third month in office. You have a chance here. It is not a good news. We can't say it's fortunate because somebody did die. But in leadership, if you are going to have the chance to appoint a chief justice or a justice of any kind, you want to do it as early as possible. So hopefully that person can align with your thinking, your thought process, and your political ideology. So this is where Joseph Boyka finds himself. So Mr. Tao, we are talking about George Namwe just passed. And now we are seeing, I don't know whether these people are legal luminaries, but they are people, they're writing everything. In fact, one just wrote and said, I'm not lobbying for the job. Then he listed all his qualifications. That's how we say equality is the deniability here, where, you say you don't want it, but actually you want it, because if you didn't want it, why list all your qualifications? What makes you better than everybody else? But then you say, but then when the president appoints me, I will have no choice but to serve my country. Mr. Tao.
Yeah. When it comes to the whole Supreme Court stuff, as for me, I'm not familiar with any of those people. Like, I will honestly say that when it comes to Liberia and when it comes to not just the Supreme Court we're talking about that, but just anywhere in government, I really don't have any hope in any of the people that they appoint in any area. I'm not familiar with any legal minds or anyone who, because like what we know based on the structure of governing that we have in Liberia, aren't the person supposed to be at least a judge that have ruled on several cases in different areas? These are uh, 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 the resume that will then say, okay, I can appoint this person. So I see that everybody that I see, they either were just here in the US or they jump around as some kind of maybe a Bobati lawyer here and there, and then they all want to be put on the bench. Uh, I have not heard any judge. And if you look at the judges, a lot of them have been accused as being corrupt. And the judicial system is very bad. So it's really a difficult stuff. Maybe that is what he's struggling with. Maybe he can't really see a judge that he think could be qualified to make it on that bench. Maybe that's what the delay is. But just like everyone have said, like Morris re-echo, uh that Supreme Court justice need to be put in place as quickly as possible because a lot of constitutional issues are piling up, and they need to have the odd number when if there is a vote, so that there could be a tiebreaker. So I don't know why the delay is. But then again, is an area like your justice minister have not even been appointed up to now. Not that I know of. So you should just know the slow pace as which things are going. So maybe all this come down to like Dr. Booty just said, the selfishness of the president. He knew he did not have the capacity. When Simeon Freeman mentioned that in one of these shows, I heard everybody be rating him that he just wanted to just talk. I listened to his whole interview. He was right. He made very strong points. He don't have the energy. He don't have the capacity.
Great.
That's just it.
Great.
This idea that, oh, let's take it easy, we should give him a path. It's not just this, what all the other government when there is nonsense. We have to be able to say the truth. We have to be aggressive. We have to be definite. We have to be direct.
Great.
So that the pressure can stay on, so that these people can know.
Great.
Rather than trying to give them leeway, let's wait till this, let's wait. There's one chicken white away. When you see it from the very first day, we're seeing it. It's just white.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Namwe is going to make the disclaimer that the judge, Justice Namwe that died, may not be any relation with him, may not have any relation, but he will be able to do that. But let's go to Mr. Morris here. The importance of a justice on the Supreme Court, of all areas, the Supreme Court. What is the importance of and the significance of what Boyka is going to do? And from his slow pace and disorganization within the appointment and the early stages of his administration, what should we expect from someone going on the Supreme Court?
All right, thank you, Mr. Gayman. And I want to just give, you know, to Mr. Namwe, because one time I called on the show and I said I was ecstatic to see who Joseph Butler would pick. And I think he commented that how can I be ecstatic when somebody died, when former Justice Namwe died. I was not ecstatic for him dying. I was just excited because it was an exciting, time to be alive to see who the new justice would be. But of course, God rest his soul. But when somebody died, they're dead. It's not there to to cry over them too much, because I think he lived a pretty fruitful and a decent and long life. So let his soul rest. Well, look, Mr. Eastman, For those of us who live in the diaspora, I can't speak for everybody. We're not too familiar with the legal or the judicial system in our country because you see a lot of quote unquote high power lawyers, the Arthur Johnson, the Sano, the other people like that who are you know representing clients in some high profile cases. And then there's one judge that I'm familiar with because I always see his name in the paper. I think his name is Roosevelt Willie, who I think is a circuit court magistrate judge who gave a lot of sentences when people commit murders and things like that. Some of these high profile cases, usually the presiding judge over those cases. But in the Supreme Court, especially if we look at the United States, you have to have a mixture of different disciplines because some people go to law school and they decide to practice torts, which is like injury, law. Some people go into corporate law. Some people got different places of expertise, right? So when you're on the Supreme Court, you can't have all, criminal lawyers. You have to have lawyers who are, because judges are lawyers first before they, become judges and so on. You have to have people who specialize in different, kinds of law practices. So I don't know what President Boyka will be looking at. And that's the thing about not understanding who this man is in terms of his political, philosophy or his political ideology. Because had we known what he believed in all these years in terms of how he believed the country should be governed and what his political philosophy is, we can kind of give it will give us an insight on who he might be looking at in terms of if they align with his political philosophy. But if I were to ask anybody on this panel what is Joseph Boyka's political philosophy, or even his judicial philosophy, I know during Obama time they were asking him what is his judicial philosophy. Ask all of those questions because those will give you a hint as to what this person is thinking and how they would probably select a justice if they had the opportunity to. For me, I'm excited because I want to see if it's going to be a great pick. Because of course, after that name is announced, then we'll all go do the research and see who they are and what their their career path has been and so on and so forth. But for me, I think the fact that the court is even right now is it's not good for our country. There'll be a lot of cases taken to the Supreme Court, especially with this whole asset recovery tax force. Almost all of the cases go to the Supreme Court. I don't know how people can get to the Supreme Court so quickly in this country. You got to go through many, many court systems, appellate court, circuit court, before you even get to the Supreme Court. So Liberia is going to be in legal turmoil, especially when it comes to the former government and people who are going to be quote unquote targeted for corruption. We need a balanced Supreme Court. So whoever the judge is going to be, it's not necessary. I think Anthony Gay said it was necessary that not Anthony Gay, I think it was Mr. Taiwo, that there should be a judge. No, it's not. It's not a requirement. I think there should be a lawyer, and that's what the Constitution says.
Says usually a judge that have at least in some instances practiced. Did ruling on so many issues, so that
in the United States, it is usually a judge, but in Liberia, not necessarily. There's been a few lawyers who was appointed to the Supreme Court. So for me, I don't have too much to say on it because I'm not too familiar with the judicial system, and I don't know a lot of lawyers or a lot of judges, so I can't really make an informed decision until that time where I can do a research on the names that's been put forward, then I can have a more informed decision on who the person will be and how maybe they will rule in different cases. I'll leave it there.
Great. Mr. Gay, Mr. Morris touched on something that is constant here in the United States and in the West. People who usually run for political offices come from a place of conviction. You belong to the Democratic Party, which is liberalism, classical liberalism, believe in big government, supporting government safety net, or you come from the conservative wing where we say, let the private sector determine everything else, and take government from the people's homes and their pockets and everything else. But Joseph Boyka made it clear.
Take government from people's home, but you're supporting people, women having the right to do abortion.
That man.
I want to take away contraception. People decide for themselves.
You don't understand our conservative.
No, I didn't come at you because you're conservative. I'm a liberal, so I come at you for that.
Joseph Boyka said he did not subscribe to any political philosophy. In fact, If it meant that he would dance with the devil to get elected, that's all he wanted. So morality, ethics, integrity meant nothing to him as long as he won. Mr. Gay,
We care about that one. We want to know what his political philosophy is.
Yeah,
he has none. He just told you.
and
Go
here's the
ahead.
thing. Here's the thing, Mr. Gayman. And welcome on Dr. Booty to the show. Listen, this is the reason why it's very important during presidential electoral cycle that those presidential candidate goes for a debate, so that the public can know what you stand, your philosophy, what you believe in, what is your driven agenda, what is your conviction on national issues. These are important things that you have to tell the national, the audience, right? But many people in like, bro, say that debate will eat. What the debate will do? But debate can kind of highlight the person's character, kind of give a synopsis of what this person will do, how they will do it, and all of these things, right? But this guy ran away from debates, so we don't know what they stand. We don't know what is their conviction. We don't know what their agenda for the country will be. For me, I'm not a legal person. I will not pretend to be. But I think that the lawyer who name may come to mind for the Supreme Court that I believe will serve the Supreme Court because of his experience, because of his diversity in the legal area, will be, Councilor Taron Gonglu, right? For me, he have, so many different hats, and also have his first degree in economics as well, right? And our country is going through a lot of economic issues and other different things. It's a person of integrity, right? It's a poor man lawyer. He's a person who just see the law for what it is. Whether you got money, you don't have money. I mean, his character has spoken for itself over the years, right? I'm not campaigning for him. I'm just saying that's one lawyer who needs surface a lot.
He's
Right?
he's disqualified, Anthony. He's already 70 years, so you can put him on the bench.
Okay.
Or very close to 70.
Oh, okay. Yeah. For that other route, then yes. But he was somebody that came to mind. But I don't know the processes as to what the Supreme Court judge should be like, and what are qualifications. Like in the United States, they will look at your track record, where you practice, whether you were federal prosecutor, or you are a judge, or you work in this district. They look at these different layers where you serve, right? The most recent one was that black lady that were appointed to the Supreme Court, and they duck behind.
Ketanji Brown Jackson, not that black lady. That's Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. No, they make it your call our justice. The first, the first black woman ever sit in the Supreme Court. That black lady.
Elvis, if I can recall immediately, what do you want me to say?
The man wants you to like Robert Hurt treated Joe Biden. He wants your memory loss.
Okay. So
respect to our justice.
I don't have everything like that. Madam Jackson, right? Councilor Jackson, I would say
Justice
Jackson now, right? Here is the thing. They went through a record rigorously. She had one of the longest vetting process at the Senate for hours. She took questions, she was grilled, and she stood her ground. I don't know if that is the same process that we have in Liberia. We need to know how these things are done in Liberia. These things have to be publicized so people can see it. If you omit, having a presidential debate, and then you hope that the citizens should accept, what the person is doing, these things does not pen well for the country. Presidential debates are necessary so you can see the potential of a potential president of the country. But these people boycotted the national debate. At least 2017, we have a little bit of what to expect, right? But many people saw that the debate was exposing candidate. And that's one of the reasons why the folks in the United Party told Joseph Yuma Burger do not show up there. And the way you say, when George Weah can show up there, I will not show. We already know George Weah history are not going to a debate. Right? So, I mean, that position is very important. Very much important. There are a lot of legal issues and a lot more will come up. And we're not having a balanced article or odd number in the Supreme Court, that means the vote will tie. So it's very important that one person to make it the fifth person on the bench be appointed and go through the vetting process and take on that seat. I hope that the president will see this as a very important issue to take care of. Since up to now, the 15 county had no superintendent, even though they have been named, but no confirmation hearing have been taking place yet for the superintendent. I don't know what we're heading with this as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're getting breaking news. The president intends to appoint Buji Bank Keita to the Supreme Court.
Mr. Nambe, when we are talking about judicial principle or the political philosophy, I know when I call Mr. Victor Nambe as a UPP former power person, and I say our political philosophy as a power person, those who were born, they used to call a power baby. The first thing you're going to see when we talk about backup market, we say constitutional democracy, multi-party. Everybody understands that it's in our bone, it's in our blood. Nobody else does that. So Joseph Walker has no standing. So you or I or anybody cannot say that this man has a principle or anything by which we can say he's going to do this, he's going to do that. He has none.
You know, it surprises me because Joseph Walker is a former member of the UPP. He left the UPP, I believe, in '95 when he went to Congress. He tried to run in the primary against Gabriel Barker's Murphy. So he at least he should have some basic orientation in what the rule of law is. But I think the bigger question we're trying to address here is, like someone asked here, what is this president's legal philosophy? Right now, I believe the Supreme Court has 5 justices on the bench. Right now, I think they have 4 now, which is going to make it difficult for a decision to be reached. The departure of Justice Dangwe, and as you pointed out, Jerome, no relation, left open that justice position. I think the outgoing president tried to put in Councillor Musa Ding, and it became very controversial. I believe the United Party government threatened to go to court on this matter, and so that vacancy was now filled. So now the vacancy is there. Already there are cases going to the Supreme Court, if nothing, just emanating from this tenure argument. I believe the LTA commission, the commissioners have gone to the Supreme Court, and I think other people are going to the Supreme Court. So this president should understand that the Supreme Court has to be constituted and ready and prepared to entertain these cases. But that has not been done. I earlier suggested here, I believe one of his best go-to people should be the Liberian Bar Association. Go to the bar and tell them the same list. When he was looking for a justice minister, I really thought that's what he was going to do. And I think that is what he's usually done. You go to the Bar Association and tell them, look, give me 2 or 3 names. I want to fill this vacancy. I think he should do that. He should go to the bar and ask them to give him a name to put in the Supreme Court. If he needs help, I can easily suggest Councillor Nimbali. I think he will very easily fill that post. He's a very brilliant legal mind. I think he's ready and prepared to take on that challenge. But more than that, look, the other question that this president has to address is the whole question of the appointment of the ombudsman. You know, we have the by-elections. I read somewhere when I was coming here, somebody wrote and reminded me that there is a by-elections coming up in Nimba. You know, the position that was vacated by the current vice president, that position has to be filled. I think once the vacancy is announced, I think there is a 90-day period within which it is supposed to be filled. So the ombudsman has not taken seat yet because that is the office that is supposed to enforce the code of conduct. Make sure if you're running for office, you cannot be an appointee sitting in government and also, you know, taking part in politics. They're supposed to do all of that work. So not filling the Supreme Court seat, not appointing the ombudsman really leaves a lot of us wondering as to what this president outlook is on the legal process. There are a lot of holes that, you know, he hasn't been able to fill. And he doesn't seem to, I don't want to say, you know, he's not exercising the necessary urgency, but it's difficult to understand.
Wow, great. Dr. Fidel, one thing that is clear in the United States Supreme Court, there is no qualification requirement. So the president can appoint anybody, even though most people that have served on the U.S. Supreme Court have been related to law. Remember the formative day of the U.S. Supreme Court, there were not too many law schools, so people didn't go to law school. Most of them were apprentices. In fact, there were people appointed, at least one that were appointed that were not even lawyers. So the president has that leeway to appoint anybody who is in his or her mind capable of understanding and being fair judicially. So here we are. I want to nominate Dr. Fidel Booty to be the next justice because he belongs to no political party. He's a centrist. He understands law. I'm not saying he's an expert. You don't have to be an expert. You have to understand. You have to be able to comprehend. You have to be very, very judicious and fair. And I think you meet all of the requirements. Doctor, talk to us about the Supreme Court.
Morris, don't get involved, please. Let me come in. I think,
Okay,
according to Mr. Morris's philosophy, expertise is tied to qualification, right? So if you don't have a law degree, then you can't be an expert on law. I disagree with that because there was a question posed to me last week, and I'm glad that you raised that point, asking about my credentials when I was making a comment on some legal matters, and I felt it was misplaced, and I think having a qualification is great, but we all know that expertise is about knowledge and experience, not necessarily a certificate, right? Because you've got people with certificates that don't have the expertise in the field. Now, I like the point that Mr. Nangwe made. I think I like the name that he suggested as well. Right. I think Councillor Warner, I've never met the person before. I don't even know whether it's a man or a woman, but I've heard that name many times, and I've seen some of the work that they've done, which, in my opinion, because of the places I've heard the name come from, I think it might be a good. I also agree with going to the Bar Association and asking them to put forward someone who will have the capacity to be neutral. But we know, right, whether it be the United States of America or whether it be Liberia, when it comes to appointing Supreme Court justices, there's no neutrality, right? Donald Trump he promised the conservative wing in the United States, including you, Mr. Gayman, as Mr. Morris so pointedly pointed out, that he was going to put on there people who will overturn Roe v. Wade. So the only qualification that Donald Trump was looking for was, are you going to overturn Roe v. Wade? If you say yes, Kavanaugh, you're on. If you say yes, Conor Barrett, you're on. And Gorsuch, I think, was the other one that he put on as well. And they all went in there and did exactly what he asked them to do. So it's very political. Let us not deviate from that. Supreme Court appointees are very political. Doesn't matter what country you find yourself in, it is a very political process, and the people will put on. And I'm not surprised. I'm taking Mr. Morris's point very seriously, that the president wants to put on this failed legal advisor that he has that doesn't even understand our constitution, hasn't even read Article 89 of the Constitution when it comes to
that was in jest. I was just joking. It's not confirmed.
And going out and misrepresenting and misleading the president, right? But this is what I would say. And Mr. Morris, like I said, made a very good point on my first show. This president has a judicial philosophy, and he hasn't said it to us, but his actions tell us clearly what his judicial philosophy is. That he thinks that the law does not apply to him. So he wants to put someone in there who will make sure that the law does not apply to him. Who will make sure that if he wants to remove people from tenure positions illegally, that person will rubber stamp it. If he wants to appoint people as acting and not so that so they can bypass the confirmation process, he want that person to rubber stamp it. So we know what his judicial philosophy is. He hasn't said it, but we can see exactly what it is. So I wouldn't be surprised if his failed legal advisor is appointed to that position. What I would want to see, however, is a balance, right? I think we need another woman on the Supreme Court. I think it will do the president a lot of good if we try to get someone on there who is a woman, who, when issues that will be related to women come up at the Supreme Court, so we have at least, because my understanding is we only have one woman. I might be wrong,
Two,
but we only have
two.
one.
Now
We
we
have
have
two.
two. We have Wolokoli and the Chief Justice, the two of them.
No, not yet. So maybe So get it to three. But I think appointing a woman will be good. And we want someone who is not a partisan of the Unity Party. But I'm not going to hold my breath.
Great.
Can I get 10 seconds, please?
Yes, go ahead.
Respectfully to you, Dr. Booty, that I asked you what you had your doctorate degree in. And I wanted to be sure before I made my comment, because if you had if you had a doctorate in law, so then I'll know that I'm speaking to a lawyer who is a doctor. But I don't want to to portray myself as an ultra crepidarian. And respectful, I don't think you should do the same, because medical doctors are very smart people. We know that people who even have doctorate degrees, they're very smart people, but they know their limitations. A medical doctor would not try to propound on legal issues simply because he has some understanding of law. So that's what we're saying here. On this platform, we have what is called Justice Forum, and we have practicing, certified lawyers who come and propound on these issues. And sometimes we may even disagree with them, but we know that the practicing law, they're expected to have a deep knowledge. They took the bar and they passed the bar. So when I made my comments, it's not to disparage you. Obviously, you're a very learned man in your specific field of study, and I respect you for that. But when it comes to legal issues, I will have some, apprehension in terms of listening to your utterances, because I think that you have the quote unquote, like you said, qualifications or expertise in that area. So the same thing for me. I can't come in and propound on law because I'm not anywhere close to a lawyer. I may have one or two legal, ideas or understanding of law, but I can never purport myself as a legal expert. So I wasn't taking a shot at you. I was just, saying that as a way to say we'll listen to the lawyers. Lawyers will hold more weight than lay persons. That's the point I was making. So I just want to make that.
Mr. Morris,
Ladies and gentlemen,
you're undermining
listen,
your point, because if you say lawyers, I think people with low qualification will hold more weight, you're still saying the same thing I said. That whatever comes out of my mouth on legal
But
matters
why
is
should a lay
irrelevant.
person opinion hold more weight than a legal expert or a practicing lawyer? Doesn't make any
I
sense to
can
me.
tell you why.
Mr. Morris,
I can tell you why.
Mr. Morris,
If
Mr.
it's
Morris,
based on fact,
excuse me,
if it's based on
excuse me,
fact,
Dr. Booty, excuse me 1 minute. Mr. Morris, even if you have 5 or 10 lawyers, legal luminaries here, on a particular subject, they always take different sides. They would tell you that the other person is wrong. That's what it is. But we have gone over
No,
1 hour.
that is not the point that Mr. Morris was making.
But listen to this. Listen to this. We have gone over 1 hour. We go to 1 minute or jingle so we can stretch our legs, because our medical people are saying we've been sitting too long. So let's take 1 minute of our time to stretch.
Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. For education, information, culture, entertainment, and overall wide variety of programs, tune in to Focus on Liberia, the best in Liberian diaspora television. We are focused on Liberia, from Kwatawi Falls to the Blue Lake of Bombay, from the Bella Forest in Bapolu to the Atlantic coastline in Buchanan, from Lake Piso in Cape Mount to the Putu and Tiempo mountain ranges of Ground Jide, from River Noah in Grand Cru County to Foya in Lofa, from the Firestone rubber plantation in Habel to the Port of Harper in Maryland, from Providence Island in Monrovia to Sacrepie in Nimba, from Sister City in Riverside to the Kilipo Range in River G, from the Gola Forest in northwest Liberia to the valleys of Jiripo in Sino County. We are focused on Liberia with the strong conviction to educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia, our glorious land of liberty.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Welcome back to Focus on Liberians on Point. We want you to share this show. We're going to make comments. We are profiling all the comments, as you can see. We may not have time to get to all the comments, but we'll profile them as much as I can. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching us and you've been sitting there watching your Barcelona or you're watching yourself, Chelsea, it is time for you to get up and stretch your legs, stretch your arms, because we want you here for the long term.
No,
Mr.
no blood clots.
Yeah, no blood clots because FOL cannot survive without you. Mr. Tower, so here we are. Let's go back
But
to
we need
our.
our caller to call in too.
Yeah, well, we'll put the numbers up. So we'll leave about 15 minutes of our time so the callers can chime in. Mr. Tower, the last one
Where you
here,
going?
before we go to our call, let's take on. I didn't see it, but someone mentioned it. Maybe we can delve into it a little more. If we don't have enough information, it's fine. We can all extrapolate. We are talking about Mr. Malu launched a new group. We don't know what that means. For those of us who are sociologists, there's something about the social sciences that we believe in, something called symbolism. It's very, very key and very important to our craft. Symbols carry a lot of weight. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you sit, your facial expression when you are talking to a sociologist will read all of these things because if you are telling me that you are happy about it, it tells me you may be saying something else and something else is going on. So, Mr. Taiwo, you get a first crack at this. Mr. Moluba Molu, the former, the immediate past chair of the CDC, launched a new group. Actually, let me start with Mr. Gay here because he flagged this. Mr. Gay, you saw what I saw. I didn't read too much into it, but I'm supposed to. What is your take? Why you think Mora Molu is now launching a new group? What do you read into that?
Because he's a power man, that's why you skip me and
Yes, I skip you because I want to discriminate against you. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Gay was the first to flag this, so go ahead.
Moluba Monu is a very smart politician. Very smart politician. Moluba Monu earlier on saw the way the CDC-led administration was proceeding. He didn't like it. It felt as though there was something that they deviated from. The fundamental of CDC formation was not what they were moving with. The pro agenda was not actually the pro way of doing things. And Moluba Molu flagged that. At a certain time, his audio leaked, and they said, oh, it was a locker room talk and other different things. But we consistently saw Moluba Molu, time after time again, continue to flag this thing in so many different ways. So, Moluba Molu knows his strength. He knows that he has the youthful population of that party.
What?
Moluba Molu. All of me disagree. Oh, Jefferson Koji or whatnot, but Moluba Molu has that presence that Jefferson Koji does not have. Moluba Molu can relate to other people and don't offend them, even though he disagrees with them. Jefferson Koji doesn't have it. Moluba Molu is this guy who works so hard but was never appreciated for his effort within the CDC. He held his ground and hold on to what it is. Now, this movement, however, I don't know what is proceeding with this movement. I don't know what is the motives of this movement is. However, but we know the pattern in Liberia, when there is a movement and once that movement attracts an audience and that audience is moving in the direction, the next thing we see the person going to run for office, right? Moluba Molu is a well-learned guy, and Moluba Molu is also a strong political figure who have a presence in Liberia. So our hope, the way he presented it today, it does not deviate from his stance. Uniting all, making sure that everyone follow the rule of law, regardless whether or not that law applies to your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad. The idea, if the person is found guilty because they break the law, they should be held accountable. I see a man who has a hunger. I know, Mario, disagree with me. I understand. Don't worry. Right? I see a man who is starting something that he have long talked about and brought it to the spotlight today and say, listen, we will do this thing. He has a conviction. We don't know what it is. But I'm seeing something. I'm seeing something that's going to turn into something tomorrow that will be very political. And I stand to be corrected. I may be wrong. My speculation may be wrong. Granted, I'm a human. But I can see that this right here, two things can happen. He may be this person to head on the CDC party in the future, or he may move this group and sow it away and breach. Because yes, the kind of people Moluba Molu attract a lot are disenchanted seditionists, people who also have loyalty, true loyalty to George Weah, but however, not happy with the way the government proceeded. That's what I see.
Mr. Gayman, please let me rebut this guy real quick.
Yeah, I know.
10
Come on.
seconds,
Yeah.
10 seconds, then I go to Mr. Taiwo.
Look,
I can
Anthony
see
Gay.
he's uncomfortable over there.
Yeah, I don't know what the W stand for in your name, but Anthony Gay. Moba Molu does not have the political bona fides to start a political institution. He
You're not
lacks
talking
any political, political cachet in that country. He doesn't have a repository of political goodwill. Moba Molu is insignificant politically. He didn't preside over the 2017 campaign of the CDC. He was not even chairman. Nathaniel McGill brought CDC to victory in 2017. Nathaniel Moba Molu, as the chairman of the CDC, lost almost every election that CDC partisan ran in. He doesn't have the track record as a political mastermind. So this whole idea that you're giving him such high praise and making it seem like it's a big loss to the CDC as an institution is just flat out wrong. I don't even know where you're getting this from. I would tell you this, Mr. Gayman coming and Nostradamus on this show. I don't like to prophesy or even like to predict, but I would tell you this. In the next few months, you'll hear Moba Molu will get a position in his government, in the Joseph Boaga government. He's job seeking. Moba Molu doesn't have a following that anybody from the CDC would leave the strong man, great man, walking president, former President Weah, to follow Moba Molu, who has failed dismally as the chairman of the party. CDC lost more seats under him in power than they ever did while they were in opposition. And you're telling me that Moba Molu is some kind of political savant? Come on, man.
Great.
I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Gayman.
Mr. Taiwo, chime in here. We got two prevailing views here. One is Mr. Moluba Molu said, Darrell Dillon, I'm going to defeat you. If I don't defeat you, I am going to resign. And then on the other hand, we see when Darrell Dillon won the election, he didn't resign. But today we are saying he has a new group. And Mr. Gay is saying, you like or don't like this gentleman, Mr. Molu has been someone who has always been a centrist. He doesn't offend anybody. So he has a strong place to go. Go ahead, Mr. Taiwo.
Okay, great. Just 5 seconds before I make reference to that, I want to clear something up here. Somebody put a comment here earlier, and then that was almost like in a continuation of what Mr. Morris said to Mr. Booty last week, that no one on this panel is a constitutional expert. We shouldn't fool ourselves. Nothing that we discuss on here is anything that is so technical. Everything that we're discussing, these are common sense, straightforward issues. I'm a physicist and with an engineering background. If I'm trying to build a house and I'm trying to start building it in the air, you don't have to be in that area. You can see that, hey, look, man, this is wrong. Anyone can discuss that. If you're a medical doctor and you're trying to perform brain surgery and you're starting from the feet, people know that there is something wrong. So almost everything that we discuss here, these are just straightforward stuff. So trying to question somebody's credential or trying to, like what Mr. Booty said before his credential or even question, was a legal stuff that the law of Liberia does not allow any other law to subjugate it. And the United States is the same way. That is why the U.S. refused to sign on to the ICC, because it was a constitutional issue. And that is the point that he made when his credential was questioned. These are straightforward things. So I just want to clarify that we shouldn't get ourselves caught up into not an expert. We're not going into no expert stuff here. These are just general, straightforward things that we're discussing here, which are common sense. So let's clear that up. But when it comes to the mobile model stuff, look, This guy, what for? They say he don't offend. Every time I saw him, he was offending somebody. This the guy that everything was about partisan. They ran that government like children. I never heard, and the Bwaka government almost trying to go in the same direction too. That it's partisan. Our partisan should get job. It's not about people who are qualified. And when it comes to him losing election because he ran stuff wrongly, no, the whole government, the government was running very badly. It was not him. The government was running very badly. They were not serious. All they were on was to play football and go to Jamaica lodge and drink and smoke. So when the government is running very badly, what will he do? He is in a political party as a chairman. But what that party achieved is a reflection of what the government is doing and accomplishing. But look at how I see it here. I don't know his group. Whether he's seeking job, that's everybody seek job. But for some time, he's been ostracized from that group because he complained there was power struggle in that group from the very beginning. And it was so bad that when Magay left, then they put him in that position. And I remember how they call this guy, the Senate, the one that was the representative, that Gray, right? Gray was the one that had to bring them back together. This is what I can see here. We can't just say, oh, he has no significance or no relevance. If he moved into the UP government, there are people that might be loyal to him, or good group and he could either bring some, because remember the elections that are coming, so he could split vote. So he shouldn't just be dismissed as a nobody.
That's why. Mr. Gayman, can I have 30 seconds to respond?
Yeah, 1 minute, guys. 1 minute, guys. Let's limit our responses to 2 minutes. Okay. We got a caller on the line that want to chime in real quick. Your name, where you calling from?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Gilman. This is Teddy Caroline Lacombe from Fargo, North Dakota. I started working in the CDC. I serve as global chairman within the CDC because I control 3 major auxiliaries groups in the CDC that play a major role in the past elections. I control a group in Lima County, a media response group in Media County in Lima that heavily fought for the CDC, that won all in the trenches in the CDC, in Lima for the CDC. And district number 1, Toti district, number 1, Mosorado County in Toti, I have a large group there that produces large voters for the CDC, for South Joseph and the CDC for the first time. And in Grand Creek County, I have a group there that influence the people of Grand Creek to vote for President Weah. So in the CDC, we have people in the CDC that really work hard in the trenches, not just in Monrovia, in Moya. Moba Molu was carrying on marvelously in the CDC. It was not because even though earlier they put stain mark on the president when he said those things that gave the oppositions reason to beat on us up to now, it was not only because of that. But people who were reading Moba Molu, he was a betrayer. He was weakening the CDC strategically. He influenced the CDC USA to become weaker since 2020, 2019, 2020, where money, strength used to come from, for the CDC, financial strength. He strategically weakened the CDC USA. That affected the CDC over the years. Even in Lima County, the guy who was the CDC chairman there, Reggie Man, he was another man that Moba Molu planted in the CDC that weakened most of the auxiliaries. And those people went against the Teddy Lion auxiliaries because we are the die-hard. District number 9 in Lima County, for the first time, because of my group, influenced the Limanians. And they voted hugely for the CDC. As a result, 20 years, a lot of people that were angry, they hit some of the ballot boxes in district number 9, where the former elected, went Greglo.
Yeah, but Mr.
So,
Yanko.
are you a loyalist to we are or CDC?
Yeah, Mr. Yanko, now tell us what will the division, what does Molba take away or bring to the party by forming a new group?
Mobile model cannot take anything away from the CDC. Mobile model, and nobody going to trust him. Mobile model, over the years, he was doing all these things for a king's man. Tribalism plays a major factor in the whole thing. He was doing it for a local man. They were doing all these things. He was undermining the CDC. In Monrovia, you see all the kind of people come together. The president, we have popularity was what was influencing the CDC was strong. It was the strength in the CDC. Okay, some of us who went more about as a chairman, he not coordinated in the diaspora well, and people suspected him. And those things he did this thing on purpose to weaken the CDC. Okay, the chairman for the Azores, they call him Mahambo Jala, in act. Those who are working for Mama Molu, these are guys who were under the influence of Mama Molu. They did nothing to control, to mobilize massively for the CDC.
Thank you. Thank you. Real quick, wind down so we can comment.
So ask you, is he a loyalist to we are or a party fanatic?
I am a party loyalist, and I am a loyalist to President We Are also.
So your being in the CDC is become President We Are. Thank you.
So no one cannot take anything away from us. And no other political party.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Not even Baga that he did those work for. The party people will not trust him. Muhammadu hated my business in the United States here because he knew I'm a strong man for the CDC. And those who were strong party loyalists and the seditious, Muhammadu he don't communicate with us. But those who were against the party, undermining the party, just like people, Muhammadu were very close and communicating with him, and people were suspecting all these things. This is one of the reasons why he not got jobs like that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for
your input.
He cannot do nothing to the CDC. And we will fight, and we will fight. We will fight powerful for CDC. CDC will rise again. So your analysis is okay, completely wrong. And those few handful of people that follow Mobile, those people, somebody will still come back to CDC.
Thank you.
Nobody will trust him at the end of it.
Italian man say arrivederci.
Okay. Now, you're hearing here, ladies and gentlemen, there is a dichotomy. I, for one, I want to lean towards what he's saying here on the side of tribalism. Because what I saw during the elections in Lofa, when this young man Momo was killed in his house and his body was brought outside, for the first time in my life that somebody would be killed, body brought in the street, and the body desecrated. And then those who did that, for me to have seen Thomas Falah with those who killed this young man and 5 other folks, to have gone to Yumali and say, I am proud and excited to be with you, to me, tells me that there's somebody who is taking tribalism to another level. Because I, as a man of conscience, would have said, let's go and reconcile with the family, the deceased family, and let's start from there. Instead of being in public, sitting arm in arm with the perpetrator of such heinous crime, says a lot about what this young man is saying, that maybe some of these people we call party stars all along have been in there for different reasons. Dr. Booty.
But I asked for 30 seconds to make a point.
Okay, 30 seconds. Go ahead, Mr. Gay.
So the analogy that was made that, Darius Dillon was going to be defeated by the CDC candidate, then whoever made such an analysis don't understand politics. You brought a weak candidate behind a candidate that solidified the opposition to to defeat him, and you think that how you evaluate the strength of the of a sitting chairman of a party, then is that you? Your party in 2017 won the speakership, the deputy speakership, won the Senate pro tem, honor the mayor you consider not important today. Right? So I don't understand when you say those
That
things.
wasn't a party-wide election. That was just among a few hundred people.
Mr. Gay,
Mother Mother had no influence in it.
Mr. Gay.
Yes. But listen,
Yeah.
I'm not advocating for Molba Molu. What I say here is that there may be a motive for which he launched this group. We don't know. Right?
J.O.B.
All of what I said is all speculative thoughts. So you're making it seem like I'm making a definitive thought that this is what's going to happen. That's not what I said.
Great. Mr. Dr. Fidel, let me go to you quick, then I'll go to Victor here. We are seeing, it looks like when in politics here in America, they would say we are circling the wagon. We saw Yimali in Lofa. He says, I am going to murder Amal Falabu. If I see him in this town, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to hire 25 motorbikes with 3 rebels on the total of 75. The government can bring all the armies they want. We are going to kill him. We're going to maul him to death. And today, we are seeing the Thomas Fala, for whom this young man lost his life, is now with the perpetrator of the heinous crime. And then on Jefferson Koji's page, he also went and hailed Thomas Fala's attitude and said, like father, like son. Dr. Booty.
Well, I think let me touch on the this whole Molba Mulu situation quickly, because I think I agree with Mr. Gay. I think we should. Yes, he lost elections. There are many people. If we look at the guy, and I know Mr. Morris will try and correct me here, because I'm going to do what Mr. Gay did. But the guy who created the light bulb, he failed so many times, right, before he finally got it right. So failure is only evidence that you're trying, right? So it doesn't mean that it's. Oh no, yeah, it is. It's a fact. Again, unless you say I don't have the right to say something like that. But failure is a sign that you're trying, and basically, I believe that we have to give him time. I don't think we can judge his capacity to do things purely because of his previous experience. I think it was a complex situation. President Weah is someone who, for those I know who know him personally, he likes sycophants. So if anyone was disagreeing with him, he would have made it very difficult for them in the party. So it's possible that Mr. Molu, whilst chairperson, didn't have the power to do what he needed to do. Having said that, to the question that you asked me, look, it comes back to the president that we have in place. You touched on this earlier, that we're still waiting to have a minister of justice appointed, right? These are issues that if we had a minister of justice, that whomever the relatives of the individual who lost his life would come forward and say, look, here are the evidence. Can you please investigate this? Because the perpetrators must be brought to justice. This president is so far, and we're hoping that he can change tact as quickly as possible in the interest of the Liberian people. He's letting the people down. He's not doing what he was elected to do, which is to protect Liberians. And the fact that an individual would lose his life so publicly, right, and nothing has been done about it till this date, tells us again the judicial philosophy of this president, that he believes that the law does not apply to him or the people that he cares about or people who are in his circle.
Good.
Point of correction, Dr. Buddha, we have a justice minister. His name is Ashworth Twe.
Yeah,
He's been confirmed. He's serving now.
Yeah, he's not confirmed, so we don't have a proper. Anyway, Mr. Namwe, here we are talking about politics. We are talking about these gentlemen are now posturing themselves because they know it's going to be a long 6 years. If you were only employed under the George Weah presidency, if you expected something and you didn't get it for 6 years, you're going for another long 6 years. So in a rational, those of us who are rational utilitarian would say, listen, Politics is interest. For the past 6 years, I have not been part of the bonanza. I didn't get any of the manna that were falling from the sky. So maybe it's time for me to juxtapose the two realities.
Yeah.
And how to feed my family. Maybe I need to show that I have some strength here. Talk to me.
I have a great deal of respect for Mr. Molu. I think it's no small feat to lead a ruling party, and he did his best. But I honestly don't. The other day when he resigned, I said here, and I maintain, I think he's overplaying his hand. I think he's overvaluing his weight. I don't know what his constituency is. The CDC, for the past 6 years, has been more of a reaction than a CDC. Most of the people in the CDC are there because of President Weir. Um, and if Mr. Mullo is leaving to join another group or to form another group, he will be leaving knowing that he's bringing with him a significant chunk of the CDC. I don't think that is what is happening. And so that leaves us with the only possibility that having been disappointed for this past 6 years, not being given a position in government, maybe this is an attempt to secure something in the current government. Other than that, I feel to see what it is that Mr. Molo is bringing to any table. Um, I don't see it, and so I'm trying to read him. It's a little difficult for me to read him. He fell out with the president in the early days of the government. I think the president has never forgiven him. Several attempts were made to bridge that divide, but I think the president kind of internalized that matter, and he reduced him to pretty much just a caretaker of the CDC. The real power in the CDC we all knew was not with John Molu. People like Koji or Fala, or the president himself. Those are the people who embodied, still do, the CDC today. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. I would like to wait to see how much influence this man is coming out of the CDC with. The first thing is, if he were coming with a lot, I would have thought that he would be joining the current party, crossing over, but he didn't do that. I'm just hearing that he's forming his own group. I haven't read up on the group yet, so I don't know exactly what it is he's doing. Whether it is a pressure group, is a political party, whether he's going to run for office, I don't know yet. But just going by what is on the table, I think he's overselling himself. That's all I can say.
Great. Mr. Namwe, just before you go, we are talking about some major missteps here. Not only, I'm talking on the side of Moluba Molu, not only is he, as a politician and a tactician, it is almost impossible to be categorical in your statement when you say, if I don't defeat this guy, I'm going to resign.
Mm-hmm.
And then you lose, and people look up to you. It tells you that you have no integrity. Even lately, when there was the retreat, he made another major misstep. The Speaker of the House, that should have been basically heading or second to the head of the table, were never even put on program. The Speaker of the House. And there was a major rumbling behind the scene. How could this be the chairman of the political party and the newly elected Speaker of the House? He formulated a program to which everybody went and disregarded the Speaker. Those are some of the things. Mr. Victor, real quick before I go to Dr. Booty.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you will argue, that the Speaker now is the highest ranking seditious in government, and therefore, yes, he deserves all the courtesy on him because of that. And then added to that, he is a Speaker of the House. I agree with you too. You can't be too categorical as a politician. You always leave room for what we call plausible deniability. You cannot box yourself in a corner like that and make those kind of sweeping categorical category statements because no one knows the future. Even with analytics, sometimes they tend to go sideways, and so it shows also of the learning curve. I think that is still available to Mr. Molu. He has long ways to go. To he's mastering the craft, but there is room for improvement. Yeah, he will learn over time that you have to be measured. You can't just make those kind of sweeping statements because sooner or later you have to eat your own words.
Great. Gentlemen, we got 6 minutes left, so we're going to do 2 minutes apiece. Dr. Booty, do wrap everything in 2 minutes, your closing. While you're doing that, I want to refresh your memory about Mr. Molu, his initial coming onto the stage. He mentioned that he met with the former president of the United States in Ghana at some point. It turned out that it never happened, and he took a black eye for that. Dr. Booty, your closing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gayman, and thank you to all of the panelists as well. I've learned a lot, as always, being here today. Look, I think just quickly on the issue of the tenure, we already know, like Councillor Clement already pointed out, that the government should actually lose this battle in the Supreme Court. In terms of President Boakai's pick for the Supreme Court seat, I'm with Mr. Nangwe on this one. I think Councillor Warner sounds like a really good name. Obviously, Mr. Morris pointed out that Councillor Gonglo, whom I would have sided with Mr. Gay, would be good, is almost close to that magic number, so he wouldn't be able to go. So, but I'm not holding my breath because I know, from what I've seen of the president so far, he believes and his judicial position is that the law doesn't apply to him and he has to put someone in who can do that. And with Mr. Molu, I think, I've said, and I agree with Mr. Nangbe, let's give him a chance, right? Let's see what he's going to bring to the table. And who knows, he might be some advocate that will be out there and pressuring the government and the CDC as the main opposition, and he might do some good for Liberia. But once again, thank you for having me, and obviously look forward to the next time that we're here.
Thank you very much. Mr. Taiwo.
Yes, when it comes to the mobile model stuff, I listened to the caller that just called. He's gaslighting on a bunch of stuff. That is how I would like to classify it. I don't think there is anything tribalistic in this. I'm not somebody that really followed the local party politics, the internal politics like that in Liberia. But from the very beginning, there have always been some kind of power struggle and maybe struggle over certain interest in the CDC. And Mobile Molu have always been on the opposite side. So a lot of this stuff, I don't think is because of some trouble stuff that he's trying to help some guy from Lo-Fi and all of this stuff. I want to believe strongly is because of that same internal stuff. And then when that his frustration, you could hear in that tape. So when he came up and he made some mention of the president, which the president himself being very reckless, trying to impregnate every woman that he could lay hands on, and then not paying attention. And he felt that other people were running stuff, and then they were sidelining him, and that thing came out. But well, so I think that is where the stuff is coming from. With respect to him seeking job, yeah, it's possible. Like Mr. Gayman just pointed out, it's a long 6 years. A whole bunch of the people that are on the CDC that so-called diehard, you will see, but before the year is in the middle or in the end, if they have the opportunity to see a bunch of them in this government. So it's not just him, but I doubt it that he will actually be able to get a job right now. The Unity Party can't even place their own people, and they're having some internal struggle. So if you will get something, I think it's going to be down the line. And pretty much that's what I would say. I would leave the whole tenure stuff.
Thank you. Mr. Morris here, real quick to maybe refresh your memory here. When President Her Honor, President Salih was president, I never saw Thomas Fala and these guys bowing down to her as Thomas Fala did and doing these things. And when he was questioning, why will you bow down? He says, that's my uncle, that's our tradition. So it is not far-fetched for people to say most of these things. Go ahead, Mr. Morris.
Look, Mr. Gayman, in our culture, in our society, if you think political allegiance it has more weight than tribal allegiance, you're fooling yourself. It doesn't. On the issue of Molu, look, Nathaniel McGill was a political savant. He brought together some unlikely political bedfellows. The NPP, he brought that together. In the second round, the MDR with Prince Johnson, the NDPL, I think with this guy Party, what a guy named,
Taylor.
yeah, Taylor, what is he? Corruption King Kong, what a guy named, man? Tyler,
Tyler.
Tyler,
Taylor.
Tyler. Yeah. So the fact that Nathaniel McGill was able to do things, like that, and Moba Molu didn't have the grandiose, he didn't carry the same political weight that other people wanted to negotiate and work along with him. We lost all of those. The coalition broke apart under his watch. So when people come in and try to say he did a good job, I will push back on Dr. Booty a little bit because if you say the measure of failure is the fact that you're trying, then what's the measure of success? So people get fired because they feel dismally at their jobs. They don't get fired he's trying, so let's keep him there even though he's not producing the results. Politics is result oriented. People go through political cycles, and if you perform well, you either be elevated or you remain in your position. If you feel dismally like you did, you have to be removed. And I think he saw the writing on the wall. If CDC would have won these elections, he would have been ousted from that position. They kept him there because they didn't want to rattle the low-fi vote. But had they won these elections, he would definitely have been out. The issue with the Supreme Court, like I said, I don't know too much about it. Whoever is going to be there, hopefully, is going to be a balanced judge that's going to rule justly. And then the last thing with the tenure, President Boycott, I want to give you the benefit of the doubt. Follow the laws. So far, nobody has seen you to be a lawless person prior to you ascending to the presidency. So continue to follow the laws of the country. Don't do things arbitrarily. Don't try to turn into a gangster mafia president who just give commands and people follow it. You do that, trust me, CDC will retaliate in kind. You don't want that. It's going to destabilize the country. That'll be my take. But good show overall. I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Honorable Nabe, you're closing.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jerome. And, I appreciate again my colleagues here. Thank you very much for the opportunity to expand my horizon. You bring a lot to the table. Like I say, every time I come here, I walk away with a lot. We started with a tenure discussion. This is a discussion that has been had over the past 2 or 3 months or so, and yet I am not sure if we've made any progress on it because I think the president continues to appoint people, and so we have to wait to see how it plays out. But it surprises a lot of us that this president, like the young Dr. Fidel here is indicating, he may not be expressing his philosophy, his philosophical outlook, but he seems to be acting it. The asset declaration, for instance, there's a timetable in the law, and the president very, very conveniently and willingly defied the law, did not declare his asset at the time he should have. He never did. And now in these nominations, he is openly violating the Constitution. He knows that. So the question then is, does he believe that there are two ways to apply the law? The one part that applies to the rest of us and the part that doesn't apply to him. He is a president of the Republic of Liberia. He has a motto. You understand me? The rule of law. He has to model it. He has to respect the Constitution. The presidency has a lot of power. He shouldn't be tempted to overflex his muscle. And I think some of us are beginning to worry over the way he's carrying on. So we're cautioning him. Like I say, he comes from the UPP. We pride ourselves on obeying the law, following the rule of law. What is the law? That is the question we always ask ourselves. We have an issue like this on the table. What is the law? What does the law say? So we're encouraging him to come back to the table and follow the rule of law. To the question of Mr. Molu, you know, he as a party chairman, he will know these things, right? It is very expensive to run a political institution. He will know that, right? The Elections Commission does their inspection every September. You have to have a certain bank balance in that account. He knows that. You have to maintain an office in the 73 electoral districts in this country. He knows that. And then, besides making rain, you have to maintain personnel to keep those offices open. He knows that. And this is why a lot of us are scratching our heads because you know, we have yet to see how far he's going with this. But I will venture to say I think he may be overestimating himself here. But again, great show. I'm happy whenever we come in here. Hopefully, I agree with Mr. Tao. We don't come here proclaiming to be any experts. We just come here with our common knowledge to contribute to the discourse. And so, you know, whatever people write here, I hope he doesn't let get to him too much. As long as you're true to yourself and you represent your own intelligence here, I think it should be okay. So thank you very much. We look forward to coming back here again to help the discourse. Thank you.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to be very clear here. Everything we say here is our opinion and that not the policy or front page, focus on Liberia. We say these things and we come out here, believe it or not, we come here with some expertise. All of these people are well-learned people. They come from discipline that we all respect. Their opinion matters. You cannot tell me that as a sociologist, I can't come here and opine on political issues because I do not have a degree in political science. That's nonsense. We come here with our express opinion, how we understand it to be. And I want to make this clear to you. Let me read this to you. Why it says here, at the U.S. Constitutional Convention, at the formation of the United States, the reason why they decided not to have a qualification in the judicial clause that form the Constitution of the United States. It says the Supreme Court does not have any qualification clause. Why? Because the founding father knew that they did not want to exclude the populace. So it says here, the Constitution may have been influenced by the contemporary state of the Constitution at the time. The omission of judicial qualification may stem from the influence of the contemporary practices in existence at the State Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. This is the bedrock. So the president had even appointed people who were not lawyers. They were not constitutionalists, but they were learned people. So when we come out here, you cannot tell us we cannot make opinions on judicial matter as we understand it or as it affects us because we are not so-called expert in the law. That is wrong. But ladies and gentlemen, great show. Dr. Booty, thank you for coming. Victor, thank you for coming on a short notice. Mr. Morris, as always, Mr. Taiwo, thank you very much for coming to us from Houston. Ladies and gentlemen, we say Houston, we got issue, we got serious problem. But the problem here, every time it appears here, we have the know-how, we have the technocrat, we have the technology, we have the foresight to say that what we are saying here is our opinion. And like Mr. Taiwo said, if I came to you that I am a medical doctor and I'm supposed to operate on your arm and I'm starting with your feet, you know there's something wrong with that. No medical doctor does that. But until then, we're coming back next week, same time, maybe it's 4 o'clock on the East Coast and 3 o'clock Central Time. I think it's 4 hours earlier in London, GMT time. It is focused on Liberia. We bring you the best. We end our show as always, whether you are a sedition, whether a UPPN, or whether you are non-partisan, or you are a critic, we are all Liberian.
We are Liberian. Liberia is our